Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of Dogs on the Couch, where everybody's allowed to have an opinion. It does not matter if you played the game, you were watching. So you're allowed to have an opinion as well. All your drunk uncles, your dads, your aunts, your cousins, it does not matter. Here, your opinion counts. Let's see. How do we get into it? Pause. How do we get into it? The dumpster fire that is the Cleveland Browns. Okay. I was going to be modest, but then I thought about it and I'm like, that's not me. So excuse me while I take my victory lap. Because this past week's game against the Chargers and Jameis Winston's performance and or lack thereof has shown us what I've known all along. Now let's get into it. Jameis Winston got all the praise in the world when he beat the Baltimore Ravens. I heard some of the most ridiculous takes that I have ever heard. Mainly coming from the Cleveland Ultimate Sports Show. And some of the guys that are on there, Leroy Horde, my guy Quincy Carrier, and his breakdowns. I heard some of the craziest stuff ever with Jameis Winston. I heard Leroy Horde. I talked about this in the last episode, by the way. I heard Leroy Horde say, "Oh, bring on the interceptions. If he looks like this, bring on the interceptions. I'll take him. You got to be kidding me. Where else would you hear somebody say that about their team and about the quarterback besides Cleveland? The only place you're going to hear somebody say, we'll bring on the interceptions. We'll take it. As long as you throw for 300 yards, we'll take the interceptions. What? I heard my guy Quincy Carrier say Jameis Winston made the receivers faster. They were faster somehow because of Jameis Winston. You try to do some miles per hour breakdown and, they get, when you throw the ball farther, they're allowed to get the top speed and all this other garbage. But then he said something that I knew wasn't true. He said Cedric Tillman ran a 4.4. I looked it up. No, he doesn't. Cedric Tillman does not run a 4.4. He runs a 4.5. Like, that's what Cedric Tillman run. Matter of fact, let me double check myself because I'm pretty sure that's what I saw is that he runs a 4.5. And just speaking just to be speaking, I understand. But when we talking like NFL wide receiver, a 4.5 is not considered fast. Now, you might be able to mix in, what they call like football speed. Because I'm a firm believer in that. That's what I had when I played. I wasn't necessarily the fastest runner. Looks like he runs a 4.54. Yeah, a 4.54. So you said he runs a 4.4. But the fact check says that Cedric Tillman ran a 4.54 in his 40. That means you not fast. It is what it is. No matter how you dissect the miles per hour and who's throwing the ball and blah, 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 and all this other stuff. If you run a 4.54 wide receiver in the NFL, you not fast. Now, you can have football speed, which means you could get open, because if we just being honest, the best wide receiver, in my opinion, ever played a game, Jerry Rice, he wasn't fast. He wasn't fast by 40-yard dash numbers, but he had football speed. If he got open and got the ball, you wasn't finna catch him. Like, it is what it is. Now, could he beat you in just a 40-yard foot race? Maybe not. But in the game of football, when you're running routes and getting open and stuff like that, He was finna get out on you. If he got open and caught the ball, you're not catching him. It is what it is. I heard Quincy also say that, Jameis Winston, with making these reads and the way that he climbs the pocket and, it's a straight line. And I even heard him go as far as to say that Jameis Winston did a good job protecting DeJuan Jones, the new left tackle. I'm going to say it again. He said Jameis Winston did a good job of protecting DeJuan Jones. Now, the last that I checked, the offensive lineman protected the quarterback. Now, don't get me wrong. I know what he meant by that. I know what he meant. He meant, like the quarterback isn't running into a sack. So that's how he's, protecting his linemen by not running into a sack. I know what he meant. However, in my mind, it didn't apply to that specific situation because we've been watching the offensive line play, and it's not good. Quincy even went as far as to say that, the sack numbers are actually more of a telltale sign of your style of play at quarterback as opposed to telling whether or not your offensive line is good. Now, I could dispel that easily with one QB, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is not a scrambling quarterback. He's a pocket passer. But his offensive line is terrible. That's why he gets sacked a lot. They had even revamped the offensive line. Was that last year? It was either last year or the year before. Because he got sacked. He was getting sacked like crazy. And he made the Super Bowl a few years ago. And they're like, all right, hey, man, we made the Super Bowl with this terrible offensive line. They didn't say, oh, well, if Joe Burrow would stop running, he wouldn't get sacked so much. He needs to protect his offensive lineman. That ain't what they said. They said, no, offensive lineman, you need to protect Joe Burrow. Period. And if you can't do it, we're going to get somebody else in here who can. Protect Joe. That's what they said. I could point out other quarterbacks, but I don't want to waste too much time on that. So he went as far as to say Jameis Winston protected DeJuan Jones. That's why there were only 2 sacks against the Baltimore Ravens. So we got a quarterback who's now protecting offensive linemen, bring on the interceptions. All of this from a win over the Ravens that you wouldn't have had if Hamilton could hold on to the ball. Because he dropped an interception. He caught it 3 different times and then dropped it. And that was just the last interception that Jameis threw. He threw 3-4 interceptions before that one that the Baltimore Ravens dropped. They just had Butterfingers that week for some reason. And like I said on the last podcast, you got people like Leroy Hoare saying, oh, well, that's why I play defense, because they can't catch. It's like, bro, you can't disseminate that type of information to people, because then they'll be led to believe that, well, yeah, the defenders in the NFL, that's why they play defense, because they can't catch. So no worries. If Jameis throws a pick, they'll just drop it because they don't know how to catch. Man, these are professional football players. You caught the Baltimore Ravens defense on a bad day. They just couldn't catch a cold that day for whatever reason. And how quickly the tables turn. Because I was just talking about this. I was like, I want to know what are the rumblings going to be when the opposing team decides to catch the interceptions that Jameis is throwing to them. Because it ain't like he's not throwing them. They just wasn't catching them. And how quickly it happened. We didn't have to wait long at all. It was the very next week. Jameis Winston goes out there and looks like absolute hot garbage. He looks just as bad, if not worse, than what Deshaun Watson looked like when he was out there. And he had a much better situation than Deshaun Watson had. Let's start off. Number one, he had Dorsey calling the plays instead of Stefanski. I have Quincy Carrier trying to tell me, oh, well, it's a good marriage because, first of all, it doesn't make sense because Dorsey was brought here to run a spread offense, design a spread offense that fits Deshaun Watson, not Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston was supposed to be the quarterback that was fit for Kevin Stefanski's system. So first of all, it didn't make sense to change play callers once Jameis became your starting quarterback to begin with. That didn't make sense. But Quincy tried to make it make sense to me by saying, oh, well, Jameis likes to push the ball down the field and take chances. And Dorsey likes to push the ball down the field and take chances. That's why it makes sense to change offensive coordinators now. Stefanski doesn't like to take chances. Whoa. Wait a minute. And yes, he said that. And in my mind, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. But we would always complain about Deshaun Watson not taking the chance to throw the ball down the field. Well, if we're marrying offensive coordinator / play caller with the quarterback, and you just said Stefanski doesn't like to take chances, well, could that be part of the reason that Deshaun wasn't so gung-ho about taking chances down the field? Because you by your own admission said that that's not Stefanski's thing. He don't really like that. That's more Dorsey's thing. We'll get back to that. So, he has the play caller that likes to take chances the same way he does. For the very first time, we trotted out the same offensive line. So the same offensive line that Jameis did such a great job of protecting in the Baltimore game, we put that same offensive line out there in the Chargers game. Same offensive line. That's the first time we did that all season long, which means Deshaun Watson never trotted out back-to-back weeks with the same offensive lineman. Jameis Winston had that luxury. He got sacked 6 times, looking just like how Deshaun Watson used to be getting sacked. Why wasn't Jameis Winston protecting his offensive line like he did against the Baltimore Ravens? Why wasn't he protecting DeJuan Jones and everybody else? Why wasn't he protecting his offensive line? What happened to that, straight drop back and he knows how to climb the pocket? What happened to all that? Why did that not work? The same way he was protecting his offensive line against the Baltimore Ravens, why he wasn't doing that against the Chargers? Let's talk about the 3 interceptions. In 2 games, Jameis Winston has recorded the same amount of interceptions that Deshaun Watson has for the entirety of the 2024 season that he played. I'm going to say that again. In 2 games, Jameis Winston accumulated the same amount of interceptions that Deshaun Watson had in the entirety of the 2024 season that he played. It only took Jameis Winston 2 games to do that. And if Baltimore hadn't had the Butterfingers, he would have twice as many interceptions as Deshaun Watson in 2 games. Because Baltimore dropped at least 3 of them. Truth be told, the Chargers dropped extra. Like they could have had 4, maybe 5 picks, but they dropped 1 or 2 of them in this game. This past Sunday, they could have had more interceptions. So we're really lucky that he only is on record for 3, because there could be up to maybe 8 or 9 in 2 games. Because if I was on any of them defenses, I could get off the couch right now and catch that interception that he threw to Hamilton that would have ended the game in Baltimore. I could get off the couch right now and catch that interception. I do. I got a little bit of a football background. Just a little bit. I can get off the couch right now and make that catch. You throwing it right to me? Yes, I'm sorry. I'm money. You throwing it right to me? Oh, yeah, I can catch that. I'm sorry. What happened? What happened to all of his being able to read and dissect the defenses and the timing throws and all that? What happened to all that? Because when we looking at the interceptions, where was he going with the ball? Like, it's one thing when you're like, I see what he was trying to do there. It's like, nah. They're bad throws. Bad throws, bad reads. The same stuff that we killed Deshaun Watson, that we crucified this man for. We watched the exact same thing take place, if not worse, because Jameis was throwing interceptions. The one thing Deshaun Watson wasn't doing, he wasn't turning that ball over. Because before anything else, before throwing for 300 yards and throwing touchdown passes and all this other garbage, the number one rule as the quarterback is protect the football. That's rule number one. If you don't protect the football, you will not remain the active starting quarterback. That's why Jameis Winston is a journeyman. Because the number one rule, which is don't turn the football over, he can't seem to figure that out. He's a great guy. We love him. We love his personality. We love him as a player as well. However, it's just a fact that he cannot stop throwing interceptions. That's what plagues him. That's why he has not been a consistent starter in the NFL, because he cannot stop throwing interceptions. And that's the number one rule as the quarterback. Take care of the football. That's why some people have made full-blown careers out of being game managers. They don't do anything spectacular. They just don't turn the ball over. And then the team figures the rest of it out. Be it the defense, be it the running game, be it the scheme that the offensive coordinator is coming up with, to where they just scheming up good plays, to where the quarterback don't have to do all this extra where he got to throw people open or he's got to be the super gunslinger or none of that. It's like, nah, man, we just need you to not turn the ball over. That's all we need. Pittsburgh been winning games like that for a number of years. They just play defense and just, good gosh, whoever we got at quarterback, just please don't turn it over. They was winning games with Duck Hodges, Mason Rudolph. Garbage quarterback play. I'm sorry, those guys are just garbage quarterback play. And somehow they were winning with it. Just don't turn the ball over. Rule number one is the quarterback. So I've seen all these breakdowns of Deshaun Watson and how he wasn't reading this and wasn't looking at that. Let's look at the all 22 for Deshaun and break down how bad he was. But ironically, I haven't seen any of that with Jameis Winston. I like to call a spade a spade. I like to keep the same energy. If we was going to crucify Deshaun Watson for everything being what it was and everything, the offense being so abysmal, and the only thing, even though we watching the offensive line not be able to block, we watching the run game not be able to run, we watching the kickers missing kicks, we watching the wide receivers drop the ball, and we watching stupid boneheaded play calls on 3rd and 4th and short. Forget all that, it's the quarterback fault. Okay, well, when Jameis go out there and all of that looks the same, and we putting interceptions on top of it, because that's what I said. That's what I said in previous episodes. I said, you think Jameis is going to fix it? Well, imagine this. Imagine everything that you got now and your quarterback throwing interceptions too. That's what we got. There you go. How did it look? It looked terrible, didn't it? Exactly. That was the point all along. It's the homerism disguised everything. It made people blind. They weren't able to see. You couldn't see the fact that Jameis had threw 4 or 5 interceptions against the Baltimore Ravens. Really, they just dropped them. All you cared about was the fact that he won and he threw for 300 yards. That means he's the savior, because Cleveland fans, especially Browns fans, love mediocrity. They love mediocrity. Mediocrity is the most attractive thing ever to them. They don't want to let go of it. As soon as they get a taste of mediocrity, and then this is what they love to say, oh, it's the best since 99. It's trash. That's why it's the best since 99. Because since 99, it's been nothing but hot garbage. So now that you just got garbage and it's not hot, you like, oh, this is great. No, it's still garbage. It's garbage. This is not where you're supposed to be if you want to be a successful winning team. Just because you went from hot garbage to garbage, you think you're doing something? No, you should want better than that. Especially after dealing with it for so long. So again, the only thing I want is the same energy. Blame it all on Jameis Winston. The same way we blamed it all on Deshaun Watson, blame it all on Jameis Winston. Because if you ain't going to blame it all on Jameis Winston, that means we got to start looking at the coaching now. We got to start looking at the coaching and the play calling now. Because I said this in the Bengals game before the Baltimore game, the game that Deshaun Watson got hurt in. Because for whatever reason, in that Bengals game, mind you, Jameis had been the starter. Jameis had been the backup the entirety of the season up until this Bengals game. For some odd reason, when we got ready to get to this Bengals game, Dorian Thompson-Robinson was promoted to the backup, and Jameis Winston was put as the emergency quarterback, meaning you couldn't even use him unless everybody else got hurt. And not only that, Dorian Thompson-Robinson wasn't told that he was going to be the backup until like Saturday or something like that. So, here, courtesy of 92.3 The Fan, here's Kevin Stefanski trying to rationalize or explain why in this specific week against the Bengals he decided to bump DTR up to the backup and knock Jameis Winston down to the emergency quarterback. Let's listen to him.
So our ones get all the reps in practice. If there's a package of plays for a player, he would get those reps in a practice. This was not the decision to put Dorian as number 2 was not because of a certain package of plays. We didn't have a specific set of plays for Dorian in that game. We made him the backup quarterback, so he would serve in that role if there was an injury, and obviously we were not hoping for that. That was unfortunate how that played out. But it was really, I guess, to be clear, Jameis had a short yardage package in the previous weeks where he was going in. So he gets those reps in practice because we didn't have that in. And I felt like Dorian had done a nice job throughout practice, throughout really the spring and summer. That really was the decision. It wasn't about any sort of package for Dorian.
Okay, so real quick. He said, and really, throughout the summer and spring or whatever. Okay, so wait a minute. If he looked that good throughout not just practice, but all through the summer and all this other stuff, then why was Jameis the backup going into the season and all the games up into the Bengals game? Because the coach literally just said, oh, well, just the way he was looking, in the summer and huh? Because if he was looking that good way back in the summer, why entering the season wasn't he automatically the backup? Why did it take until Saturday before you play the Bengals to decide that DTR is the backup? Not only that, but in that Bengals game, where what he said, he promoted him up because, due to just in case of injury. Basically, out of all that mumbo jumbo, he said, because that I compare him to Freddie Kitchens all the time with that. Do a lot of mumbo jumbo and don't answer the question. Don't say why. In all the mumbo jumbo, it was really just, oh, well, we put him there due to, in case of injury and, what we saw all week in practice and, in the summer, and all that type of stuff, all the off-season work, I guess, throughout the summer and spring and, all that put together, we that's the reason we bumped him up. What? Okay, fine, I guess. Now, let's look at what DTR did when he got in the game. He was 11 for 24. I think it was 80-something yards. He was 11 for 24, 80-something yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. I'm going to say that again. 11 for 24, 80-something yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. Jameis Winston ended up getting into the same game. He had a much higher completion percentage, and he threw for a touchdown pass. It was kind of garbage time. It kind of wasn't. But when you couple that little bit of time that Jameis had in the Bengals game, and then you put that with the Baltimore Ravens game, how did you look at that and say that DTR was the better option at backup over Jameis Winston? Because DTR threw 2 interceptions in limited time. He's one shy of what Deshaun Watson has thrown all year. And DTR played like 1/4 of football, and he was up to 2 interceptions. So, head coach, how good are you at evaluating quarterbacks if you was watching DTR and Jameis Winston and you said that DTR was the better option and he come in and go 11 for 24 and throw 2 picks with no interceptions? But Jameis came in, higher completion percentage, no interceptions, and a touchdown. Make that make sense, head coach, because you out your mouth just tried to explain why you decided, like why you made that decision. Like I'm not understanding that. Seems like you weren't able to assess your quarterbacks. You weren't able to assess the talent, which is what I think he struggles at, like assessing talent. I don't think he knows how to utilize talent. Number one, I don't think he can assess it. And number two, I don't think he knows how to utilize it. Because all of the superstars that we've had come through here, they don't look like superstars when they're here. The only guys that look great while they're here are system guys, a la Amari Cooper, because he had a couple really good years when he was here. System guy. He's not just this superstar wide receiver. But if you put him in a good system, he runs great routes. He's got great hands. He's a great system wide receiver. Case Keenum, great system quarterback. Joe Flacco, great system quarterback. System people is what looked, and tight ends. You're always going to look good with him if you're a tight end. System guys. But all the superstars we had, we just couldn't seem to figure it out with them. Kareem Hunt, couldn't figure it out with him. Odell Beckham, couldn't figure it out with him. Jarvis Landry, we had it together at first, but towards the end of when he was here, we couldn't figure it out with him. Only one who's been consistent, as far as like getting the targets and, just we being consistent, but it's David Njoku, and he's a tight end. And we know Stefanski loved them tight ends. Pause. So I don't know. It's like the guy got a problem with being able to fit his offense around superstars. It's like he can't say for a second, let me get away from my offense, my vanilla offense. Let me get away from that and let me just focus on getting the ball to my playmakers and let them make plays. Forget trying to scheme something up. You know what? I'm just about to drop back and throw this slant to Odell Beckham. Let me just get the ball in his hands and see what he can do with it. Let me just get the ball to you and see what you can do with it. Not have to, you got to run this route and then the timing, the blocking has to be right and then the QB has to release the ball on time and then you got to come out of your break on time and everything's got to be on time in order for this to work. Nah, man. Drop back, throw him the ball, let me see what you can do. Get the ball into the hands of your playmakers. When the going gets tough, that's what some of the best offensive coordinators and head coaches do. Go and get tough. All right, you know what I'm about to do? I'm about to put the ball in the hands of my playmakers. And it ain't got to be nothing special drawn up for it. I'm just about to hurry up and put the ball in their hands. Hurry up and get the ball in their hands the best I can and see if they can make a play. But when you take that ability away from a playmaker and say, nah, you can't be a playmaker right now. I just want you to run what the system says run. Then a playmaker can start to look mediocre. Because you're not allowing them to make plays. So they can start to look mediocre. Let's go through a little bit of mediocrity, if we will, real quick. Kevin Stefanski's record as the Cleveland Browns head coach is 38-36. 2 games above 500. You know what's written all over that? Mediocrity. You're 2 games above 500. Oh, and for all the people who want to say, well, that's only because Deshaun Watson not just stinking it up. He losing all the games with Deshaun Watson. Well, first of all, Deshaun Watson's record with the Cleveland Browns is 9-10. So 1 game under 500. And then Kevin Stefanski's record without Deshaun Watson as his quarterback is 29-26. You're 3 games over 500. That's mediocrity. Like, I don't understand. That's mediocrity. It's mediocre. That's what you are. It's mediocre. And this is with Deshaun Watson out of the equation. This is you and all the other quarterbacks not named Deshaun Watson. Your record is 29-26. That's mediocre. But every time you hear a Browns fan tell it, it's, well, the success that Kevin Stefanski's had, the success, all of the success that he's had here, all of the success. 38-36 or 29-26 is not success. That's mediocrity. That's not success. I'm sorry. Like, wake up and smell the coffee, man. That's mediocrity. That's not success. The problem is you're so used to going 1-31 that when you get 29-26, you think it's the best. Oh, this is the best since 99. Yeah, that's because you was going 1-31 in 2 years. Going 0-16 and then winning 1 game the next year. That's the reason that 29-26 or 38-36 looks like it's success. Because you used to 1-31. 38-36 is not success. That's mediocrity. So for me, why are you scared to let go of mediocrity? Jets fired their head coach. Saints fired their head coach. Never for different reasons, but both of them apply to our team. Saints fired their coach, bro, you're not getting it done. Period, point blank. You should be better than this. So we're going to let you go and we're going to get a head start on what we're doing. The Jets, hey, we like our quarterback. Quarterback don't like you. So guess what? You got to go. We picking the quarterback over you. So you got to go, buddy. And Salah was, his record of, he was kind of mediocre. Like, his record was probably similar to Stefanski's. And he didn't have the talent that Stefanski had. Bruh had Sam Darnold. She had a great defense. But bruh had a bunch of a hodgepodge of whoever. He didn't have no talent. Stefanski, throughout this 38-36 run that he didn't have, you realize all the talent he's had on this team? Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, both in their prime. You had both of them on the same team at the same time. In their primes. You had Odell Beckham in his prime. Jarvis Landry in his prime. David Njoku. You had all these weapons at one time on the same team, on the same offense. And the best you can muster up overall is 38-36. That's mediocrity at its finest. I don't think he's good at assessing talent. I said that a few minutes ago. Kareem Hunt wanted to be here. He liked being here. He's from here. He's from Cleveland. So he liked being here. He wanted to be here. Had no problem with being here. And that's hard to find. It's hard to find a talented player that doesn't mind playing in Cleveland. Don't nobody want to be in Cleveland. So that's for starters. He actually wanted to be here. We look at him and say, nah, we're good. We'll roll with Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong. We'll go with those guys. Because you've lost the step. You're not as good. You're not good anymore. You're not good. The Kansas City Chiefs picked that man up off the couch. Okay? In his last 4 games, Kareem Hunt got, in no particular order, his last 4 games, 27 carries for 102 yards, 22 carries for 78 yards, 21 carries for 59 yards, 27 carries for $106. And the Kansas City Chiefs are undefeated with Kareem Hunt as the starting running back. And not just the starting running back. With these numbers that I just read, that's a bell cow. You don't really get too many teams that's like 27 carries. And out of the last 4 games, he's cracked 27 carries twice. You know they got Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City, right? Arguably the GOAT quarterback, especially of the new age. So you would think that if there's any team that's going to be throwing the ball all over the yard, throw the ball 60, 70 times, it would be them. Nah. They got Kareem Hunt and said, you know what? Kareem, we're going to use you the same way we used to use you back in the day. Just going to turn around and give it to you. Make something happen. And even if you ain't super elusive anymore and dynamic, he's got this new style where he runs just like a bowling ball, just running stuff over. And he still runs with that energy. Like, there's no easy way to tackle that guy. And the more and that's why I think they use him so much like that. Because the more this guy runs at you over the course of a game, defense is not trying to tackle that guy, man. In the fourth quarter, because I'll use this as an example, the Monday night game, there were notably a few former Browns players that were stars in this game, Kareem Hunt being one of them. Especially on the final drive and in overtime, the final drives by each team and in overtime. Patrick Mahomes is on the Kansas City Chiefs roster. He's the starting quarterback, arguably the GOAT quarterback, especially for the new generation. And you know what they said on that last drive down the field? They said, we ain't throwing it all over the field with Patrick Mahomes, even though we know who Patrick Mahomes is. We're going to turn around and give it to Kareem Hunt. Oh, he got 3 yards? Turn around and give it to him again. Oh, he got 4 yards that time. So now it's 3rd and short. You know what? Give it to him again. First down. Oh, that worked. We got a first down. Let's do it again. And then the whole time that you're doing that, they also running time off of the clock. Good game clock management. This is smart. When you got a competent head coach and play caller, these are the things that you're thinking of. These are the things that you're executing. We didn't know rush. We ain't trying to throw the ball all over the yard. And this guy picking up 3.5, 4 yards per pop. So if you do the math, 3.5 to 4 yards per pop. If I run it 3 to 4 times, that's a first down. So I'm just going to keep turning around and handing it to him till they stop it. I don't have to get cute. I don't have to do nothing extra. I'm just going to turn around and hand it to Kareem Hunt. A guy that I guess we looked at, not we, a guy that I guess Stefanski and Andrew Berry or whoever else is our talent assessment, Paul DePodesta, maybe, I don't know. It's hard because I don't think he ever in the building, so I don't know if he looked at him. But somewhere they looked at him and was like, nah, we don't need no Kareem Hunt. We can't use a guy like this. We good with Jerome Ford and Pierre Strong. Mind you, this guy over there in Kansas City tearing it up now. Looking like he might be on track to get to a Super Bowl. Might even win a Super Bowl ring. And then that will be yet another former Cleveland Brown that goes to another team and they get utilized and win a Super Bowl. Odell Beckham. Left here, went to the Rams. They utilized him, won a Super Bowl. He would have been Super Bowl MVP had he not got hurt in that game. Kareem Hunt, former Cleveland Brown, tearing it up over there with Kansas City. They undefeated, looking like they on their way to another Super Bowl appearance. Then he mess around and get a Super Bowl ring. You mean to tell me that's not an indictment on the Browns and their talent assessment or head coach? How are you letting these things happen under your watch, Kevin Stefanski? How are you letting this stuff happen under your watch? Baker Mayfield looked amazing going toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes, and I hated Baker Mayfield. I was the biggest Baker hater ever, especially when it was the divide between him and Odell Beckham. I was on the side of Odell Beckham. Not the side of Baker Mayfield and Kevin Stefanski. I was on Odell Beckham's side. I hated Baker Mayfield. But what's so crazy is, now that he's been removed, and I've seen Stefanski with other quarterbacks, and then I see what Baker been doing ever since he been over there in Tampa Bay, and in this year in particular, he's leading the league in passing touchdowns. Baker Mayfield. And he looks consistent. Here, that was the problem. He wasn't consistent. It's like you don't know what Baker you're going to get. One day you get good Baker, the other day you get bad Baker. You don't know what Baker you're going to get. Over there, the guy looks consistent. He looks like a darn good NFL QB over there at Tampa Bay. This man was going toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes, and he didn't have Mike Evans. He didn't have Chris Godwin, your two premier wide receivers, playmakers. He didn't have them. And he's going toe-to-toe, taking the game into overtime, leading the game-time drive He wasn't doing that over here. And if he did, it was only once, maybe twice. Over there with Tampa Bay, he looks consistent. Like, that's crazy. Former Brown. How does he look that good over there? How? And you mean tell me that's not an indictment on the head coach or our talent assessment team? Andrew Berry? Paulie Podesta? Another guy who he's not a former Brown, but he could have been a Brown, DeAndre Hopkins. When Patrick Mahomes was throwing the ball in this last Monday Night Football game against Tampa Bay, he was throwing it mainly to two people, Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins. That's who he was throwing the ball to. DeAndre Hopkins had 2 touchdowns that game. The second one was a crucial touchdown. It was in the waning parts of the game. If I'm mistaken, I believe Kareem Hunt was the one who scored the game-winning touchdown in overtime. So both of these guys, one of them that you had, the other one that you could have had, because after 2022, we was looking, we was supposedly in the talks of, the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes. Asked Deshaun Watson about it. Oh, we would love to have him here. Now, I hate to use the Jets as an example because they done only won 1 game since doing this, but Aaron Rodgers, I want Devontae Adams. They was like, oh, you want Devontae Adams? Oh, we about to go get him for you then. That's what you feel like you need to make it better. Oh, we about to go get him. Don't even worry about it. We about to get rid of Salah and we're gonna go get because I know we had Mike Williams already, and you should be good enough with him. But you said you want Devontae Adams. We about to go get him. You spent all this money on Deshaun Watson, and here go his number 1 target, his best friend, his favorite guy. And you mean to tell me you don't do everything in your power to get him? This was 2 years ago, DeAndre Hopkins. Because the guy that I just saw last night, who's, I guess, can't create separation anymore, and he's not good enough and all this other type of stuff, whatever narratives they painted about the guy. He looked like he was getting pretty open on Monday Night Football last night. And not only that, but at the end of the game, when they interviewing Patrick Mahomes says, and I quote, I was watching film on D-Hop, and I see him winning one-on-ones. So Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback, who technically this ain't even his job in the bigger scheme of things, but he can look at the film and be like, oh, D-Hop winning these one-on-ones, I need to throw him the ball. Because he winning these one-on-ones, so you know what? Let me put the ball up and see if his hand's still good. Monday Night Football in the rain. Patrick Mahomes primarily targeted 2 people, Travis Kelce and DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins just got there. He just got there. 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. He just got there. And somehow they find a way to utilize him in a big fashion. That's what happened when you got a competent coach and play caller in Andy Reid. He utilized his skills, his skill positions, his talent. He utilized it, including Kareem Hunt, who was deemed to be washed up by the Browns, I guess. Let that man tote the rock 27 times. Which means every run wasn't this big run, but they stayed committed to it. They're like, nah, we're going to keep giving you the ball, bruh. Because these little 3 yards here and there, 4 yards sometimes, 5 yards sometimes, that's going to add up. And then in the fourth quarter, when it's raining and the other team tired, and we running you down they throat paws, nobody going to be wanting to tackle you in the waning parts of this game. This big bowling ball of a running back running towards them. After a while, you don't want to tackle that anymore. Three notable players, 2 of them former Browns, 1 of them that could have been a Brown. All playing major roles in this Monday Night Football game. Looking like stars. They were the stars of the game. Outside of Patrick Mahomes. They were the stars of the game. Listen here, because when they did the coin flip for overtime, and then, of course, the Kansas City won the coin toss, you see Baker Mayfield go like this, like, ah. And that's the one thing that you did like about Baker, that fighting mentality, because the way he had been playing, it truly felt like if Baker had a chance to get the ball, he probably would have went down and scored. If he was here with the Browns, we wouldn't be able to say that. We wouldn't be able to say that with confidence. Like, yeah, nah, we believe we finna go down and we finna score and we finna beat Patrick Mahomes. It had that feel last night. The feel was whoever had the ball. And it just so happens that the Chiefs was the ones who got the ball. Just so happens it was them. And that whole drive, it consisted of Kareem Hunt, DeAndre Hopkins, and Travis Kelce to get down there to score and win the game. Because again, I felt like if Baker had messed around and got that ball, Baker probably would have led them down there to get that win. And anytime he was here with Cleveland, you never felt like that. You always felt like something was going to go wrong. Always. And you felt like the inconsistency would show up. If that's not an indictment on the coaching and the play calling, I don't know what is, man. Like, you got to make that make sense to me, man. How these guys are able to be successful in other, in other offenses with other head coaches, but somehow they just can't seem to get it figured out while they're here. Like, I don't know. And then, you got the talking heads who want to make excuses for the dumpster fire of a head coach and GM and whatnot. Oh, well, there's so many things wrong with the Browns that we can't really say what it is. Now that Deshaun Watson gone, you can't blame him no more. Oh, well, we don't really know what it is. Well, that in itself is an indictment on the head coach. Because if he was a good head coach, at least he would limit the problems. Meaning like, well, instead of it being everything, the offensive line sucked, the special teams suck, the kicking sucks, the running game sucks, the receivers suck, the quarterback sucks. Instead of everything just sucking it up, pause, you would be like, well, man, if they could just get that offensive line together, they would be good to go. Sort of like with the Bengals. We know what their problems are, offensive line and defense. So to me, you got a somewhat competent head coach, even though people don't really like Zach Taylor, all like that. He done got them to a Super Bowl, and when you look at their team, you can easily assess what the problems is. Defense is trash, and your offensive line is suspect. With the Pittsburgh Steelers, Mike Tomlin, consistent head coach. Might not be the greatest head coach, but he's at least very, very solid. I'm pretty sure all NFL teams would love to have him as the head coach. When you look at his team over the past few years, you can easily assess what's the problem. They need a quarterback. They need competent quarterback play. Everything else is fine. They just need competent quarterback play. They insert Justin Fields, made it a little bit better than Roethlisberger. They were winning. But then when they inserted Russell Wilson, a guy who can, stretch the ball down the field, now they look dangerous. The Steelers look dangerous now. But you could easily look at their team and assess what was wrong. You got a good coach. A coach that's like, well, I ain't gonna let everything be messed up. We got to limit what's wrong. Even the stuff that we hear Stefanski week after week after week after week. What about the penalties? Oh, yeah, we got to clean those up. And then you come back out next week and you got 7 more penalties. And it's not like it's just, you struggle with holding. It's holding. It's a legal man downfield, legal shift. All kind of, you like, dude, what are we doing? I called out one play on the previous episode. We had intentional grounding and illegal touching on the same play. Week after week after week. Well, I got to do better. We got to do better. I got to coach better. Eventually, bro, it's like, hey, this is my thing. There's only so many times you can say I'm sorry. Because eventually, you just a sorry emmer effer. All that, I'm sorry. Eventually, you just a sorry emmer effer. That's what you is. You just sorry yourself. That's what you are. Because time after time after time, none of these things have improved under Kevin Stefanski's watch. None of these things have improved. None of them. But we solely was blaming the quarterback when we got all this evidence that points to head coach. That's what it points to. guy that makes weird decisions at weird times, and then when you ask him why, he struggles to justify it. In the clip that I played with him talking earlier, you could hear him even he was fumbling over his own words, trying to explain why DTR was moved up in the week against the Bengals. Why? Only for us to turn around and see Jameis Winston the week after, and everybody praised Jameis Winston. But nobody said, well, then why was DTR the backup to begin with? If Jameis looked so darn great and this was the fix all along and whoop-de-whoop, Stefanski, how was you looking at the both of them in practice and said to yourself, oh yeah, we're going to bump DTR up this week? What? Make that make sense. I don't think you can assess talent, my man. I don't think you're good at identifying talent. And then once the talent is identified, I don't think you know how to utilize it. You just want to put people in your system. You don't want to coach the talent. You don't want to say, oh, you know what? I got some talent. You know what? Let me draw up some stuff around my talent so I can utilize my talent. Nope, you just want to take talent and say, hey, talent, just do this, because this is what my offense say you supposed to do. I don't care about how talented you are and I can put the ball in your hands and let you make a play. This is what my offense say you supposed to do, so that's what I want you to do. Care how talented you are. I'll make you look like a dumpster fire. I'll make you look like a garbage can over here. You play with me. Do what my offense tell you to do. That's what it seemed like it is to me. So, we'll see where they shift and move the blame going forward, because clearly Deshaun Watson's off the table, so you can't blame him. And you didn't really want to seem to blame Jameis Winston too much because it'd make you look foolish after all that praise that you had just given him about how, like he was the second coming and this is what the Browns should have been doing all along, and see what happens when you change the quarterback. Everything is fixed now. And how quickly the tables have turned. How quickly. So, yet again, for me, I'll say this once more. Stefanski, Andrew Berry, and Paul DePodesta as well. You're on the clock. Dogs on the couch, signing off, baby. Till next time.